Book of Daniel, chapter 1. Daniel's training in Babylon. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put in the treasure house of his God. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that, they were to enter the king's service. Among these were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah, Shadrach, to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. He asked the chief official for permission. He asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now, God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel, but the official told Daniel, "I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you." Daniel then said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see." So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them in, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. And Daniel remained there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. Okay, so there's a lot here. So as we see, these were exiled people from Israel, from the Promised Land. And so the King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, was still wanting to utilize in a way that was beneficial to him, people who would serve him. And so here are 4 people from Israel who just went through the devastation of loss, of being around the community, being in the kingdom of Israel, and now because of the decisions that the people had made as a whole, here they are being brought in. And these 4 individuals, though, will come to find out are very faithful to the Lord. And the Lord had a plan for them, as it is stated right here in the book of Daniel. Now, God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, "I'm afraid of my lord, the king, who has assigned you food and drink." And that is because during this time frame, the person also treated their Babylonian as like a king, not only a king, but almost like a god, like a demigod, like someone who had power and authority that was beyond human. And so there's many different things here. The Lord was already at work. The Lord was already showing that these four individuals would be able to succeed in what was going to happen as long as they relied on him. We can see that also they're being tested and they're allowing themselves to be tested. So something that we can bring past to present with is that sometimes we are tested in our will, in our strength, in our faith of the Lord, and to see where we lie. Because a lot of times we can become pompous, or we can become arrogant, or we can be opposite of that. We can feel like we're weak. And where our weakness lies, that's where the strength really comes from. And having faith in our dear Lord and Savior, that is where the redeeming grace comes from. And so here is Daniel telling, also known as Belteshazzar, Belteshazzar, if you know how the correct pronunciation, by all means in the comments, and I thank you. But he is telling the person who's overseeing them that they don't want this type of food. Now, another thing, so before we go on to point two, though, relying on the Lord for his guidance, also understanding that we may be tested. And in those times of testing, it's to see where we are in our walk with the Lord. Before we go on, though, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when we read over this? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think?